Good morning, everybody. It is an honor and a privilege to be with you today for this important session that discuss documentary research, documenting an epoch where the pandemic was at best at the American University in Cairo. As we all know, documentary research is the use of outside sources, documents, and audiovisual materials to support the viewpoint or argument of an academic work. The process of documentary research is often involves some or all of conceptualizing, using, and assessing documents. The analysis of the documents, in our case, audiovisual materials, in documentary research would be either quantitative or qualitative analysis. And this is also is going to appear quite well in this conference that we are taking part of it. We are documenting what a performance of a center that is considered as, I was mentioning to the board yesterday, a center of excellence. And the center, regardless of the pandemic, really delivered wonderful work in this particular period of time, and involving all kinds of documents that some of our experts are going to address it in this session. And also they are going to draw the attention of the performance of the center with regard to AUCTV, the students run operated television network, with regard to the different work in publication, specifically Arab Media and Society, and with regard to the professional development program and the kind of work that they have done during this particular and important period of time, documenting the history of the professional development program, as well as the different kind of international organization work that took place with partnership or in partnership with the Kamal Adham Center for Television and Digital Journalism. And finally, we will let our expert who came particularly and specifically, and I thank him for that, to discuss his views with regard to the performance of the Kamal Adham as an outside reviewer and shed some light on this performance. My name is Hussein Amin. I'm the director of the Kamal Adham Center for Television Journalism, and I welcome you all. If you don't know me, my field is broadcast communication with particular reference to television and digital journalism. I have been chairing the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, and now the director of the center. With us today, very prominent persons that they are very dear to me. They work with me. I'm the leader of Equals, and they are my colleagues at the Kamal Adham. They did not stop coming to the center even during the tough time of the pandemic. So I will introduce them in order of their presentation, and I will go back to them to ask them to start their presentation. With us today, Ms. Sarah Sha'arawi. Ms. Sarah Sha'arawi, BAMA, is the managing editor of Arab Media and Society, a Q2 journal, and heads the research and publication division of the Kamal Adham Center for Television and Digital Journalism. And she's going to talk, her topic is the role of the academic journals in covering the pandemic, the case of Arab media and society. Then we have Ms. Salma Al-Ghitani. Ms. Salma Al-Ghitani, BA and MA in communication as well, is a part-time instructor at the Journalism and Mass Communication Department at the American University in Cairo. Ms. Al-Ghitani is considered among Egypt's young media literacy expert. She performs in many international platforms and received also advanced diplomas in the field of media literacy, in addition of giving lectures to young African journalists for many years. She also has many research and publication that were published in international journals and participated in international conferences and platforms. We have Ms. Dina Saad. Ms. Dina Saad, BA, MA in Mass Communication as well. And Ms. Dina Saad is the Associate Director for Professional Development at the Kamal Adham Center for Television and Digital Journalism. Ms. Dina Saad is a hard worker and always, when she promised, she always deliver. Her division really worked quite hard, and she is the first digital. She introduced the first digital media diploma that is offered in Arabic language and online during summer 2018. And then I forgot to tell you that Ms. Salma Al-Ghitani is going to speak to us about the Adham Center's approach to establishing joint projects for COVID-19 activities. And Ms. Dina Saad is going to speak about the performance of the professional development program during the pandemic. And finally, we have the outside reviewer, Mr. Ahmed Ismat, who is a friend of the center for so many years. And Mr. Ismat, he is one of the of Egypt experts that everybody knows him because of his contribution. He influencing the media and culture field since 2006. He's always bringing new ideas and innovations to the media, and that's why when he speaks, everybody listen. He's going to speak to us about his title is exactly an expert outlook on the Adham Center initiatives, the case studies of the UNESCO and Facebook journalism project grants, which are grants, of course, with the Adham Center partnership. And we are very proud that he took part of this. Now, I think I am scheduled to be the first to introduce the first item of the documentary research in this conference. And I would like to ask Ms. Salma Amr? Oh, Sarah first? Okay, the first thing, because we're going to show you an audiovisual documentary right now about the performance of the Adham Center. Consider this as an audiovisual research in the documentary research that I talked about. All right, please run it.
In 2020, we faced a critical situation that we had not been through before. The COVID-19 pandemic invaded the world, which caused a worldwide lockdown. When AUC changed its education system to a virtual learning modality, AUCTV accommodated its facilities to support the education system and opened its studios to be the only platform to update the AUC community. The president, provost, counselor, and several AUC leaders depended on our production team to deliver their messages, mainly around the new updates and decisions in AUC. Our studios were open to host the president on more than one virtual campus conversation to be aired through the AUC TV platforms during the lockdown. AUC TV team had to train the students to work remotely using the available ready tools, such as shooting using mobile kits, doing virtual interviews through Zoom, and editing their films using their mobiles. It was not easy. However, students succeeded in producing several public service announcements, reports, shows, and documentaries. Then, in September 2020, students had to go back partially on campus to work in our sanitized studios to produce their weekly shows with strict rules, such as applying social distance, wearing masks, and sanitizing hands every 20 minutes. An outdoor studio was set up for undergraduate students to offer them the same learning experience and produce their shows and news bulletins that they used to do before the pandemic took place. And after being fully back on campus, AUC TV started working hard to support students in their daily production while applying all safety precautions.
Hello and welcome to AUCTV. Today, we're getting to know more about AUC's 13th President, Ahmed Dalal, who took office last month.
Efforts always pay off. Yes, the number of international awards was a reward to the AUC TV team and all graduate students for their efforts during the pandemic to ensure productive and safe semesters for the students.
Back to me. I will be happy to respond to any questions or comments after we end this session. Now, we have Ms. Sarah Sharawi. I also would like to add to what I have said about her before, that she is a contributing editor for the commentary website Africa Digital Journalism, and her work appeared in Foreign Policy, the Newsweek, and also the National, among many other things. She is a scholar, a researcher, and a consultant on a variety of projects related to media, migration, science, and development in collaboration with a wide array of international organizations and government agencies. Then, now, it is nice if we have our presentation for Sarah first. If there is no questions, if there is no questions for me. Okay, Sarah, please proceed.
Thank you, Doctor. And just I'm a little bit under the weather, so please bear with me. So first, I'm going to sort of discuss sort of broadly what this period, with the period of the pandemic, has sort of the opportunities and challenges that it has sort of presented research in general, and then I'm going to give sort of an outline of our specific case of the Arab Media and Society Journal. So as I'm sure you all know, the COVID pandemic has sort of created novel opportunities for research, you know, in circumstances and in an environment that we've probably and hopefully will not have to face again. So this is within the context of media and communication studies. This has included sort of a unique role in unpacking and analyzing and quantifying a variety of topics, some of which include, you know, how the pandemic has been covered in general by mainstream media, the role of social media in spreading both best practices for the public in terms of care and looking after themselves, as well as analyzing the prevalence and forms of mis and disinformation that we've seen regarding the pandemic. Also, the impact of increased online activity on individuals socially, and in terms of work, all these Zoom meetings and conferences, of course, that we've gotten so used to, and in terms of education, which is very relevant, of course, to AUC and all of us, really, with children and who have been pursuing education. And also the use of media tools by government institutions to share information with society, and the types of tools that governments governments and international organizations have had to employ, and modalities of doing so to, you know, ensure public understanding and maintain trust. So a lot of our published research, and this is sort of, you know, ongoing, but has manifested sort of in different ways throughout the pandemic, is primarily media and communication studies, including ICT, but also at the intersection of sort of cultural studies and social studies. And we've really had sort of a unique experience with respect to sort of the history of our publishing, which is that you know, we held the second, we host an annual conference, the Arab Science Journalism Forum, and the second iteration of this conference took place on the AUC campus, literally a few days before it was forced to shut down as a result of the pandemic. And so, you know, this was an initial opportunity to sort of discuss this new situation that we were being faced with. But also, shortly thereafter, we published our issue on media and science. Arab Media and Society is a biannual journal, it's bilingual, and it's thematic. So we, our editorial team, we meet and we sort of work together with our board and our stakeholders to find, you know, the best topics that are sort of that are, you know, facing the region in particular, or the world in general, to cover from a media and communications perspective. And so this has allowed us to really sort of zero in on some, you know, some relevant and really focus in on COVID-19 as well in a few different ways throughout the last 2 years. So in any case, the media and science issue was published shortly after the forum, the Science Journal, Arab Science Journalism Forum, which took place in March of 2020. And this, in fact, was our first opportunity to publish some research on COVID-19. It was actually an article by one of our colleagues at AUC, Lubna Khairi, who was looking at the applications of the 4 models of science journalism on sort of the initial online activity and the public's interaction with COVID-19 news online. And since then, we've actually published 5 issues throughout this period of the pandemic. Most recently was the Media and Peace issue, which was published just a few weeks ago. And it's been an interesting experience because it's been a process of balancing fatigue with the pandemic and with this constant influx of information, and also selecting the best research that we think will be most valuable to the community and to our readers. And so we've had a massive, as I mentioned, we've had a massive influx of articles on COVID-19, and it's been a challenge working with our board members and reviewers to determine the most worthwhile research. Notably, last summer, we had the 3rd Arab Science Journalism Forum, which was focused on health reporting, health communication, and then shortly thereafter, we published a special issue on media and health. And this, I think, was a really valuable contribution to scholarship on how the pandemic has been covered and all of sort of the various elements and the various ways it has impacted the lives of individuals in a variety of countries in the region. And I think, I was quite pleased with the variety of articles that we were able to publish that really covered a vast array of the region, a vast array of countries in the region, and a variety of perspectives. Some of this includes the role of social networks in shaping health awareness during the pandemic in Egypt, crisis communication, and we have an article on strategic use of Instagram by the Bahraini Ministry of Health, the impact of social media on the perception of risk, which I think is a really huge portion of, or a really important topic to examine, and this is in the Arab region in general. We also had articles on Iraq, on debunking COVID-19 fake news, which of course has plagued not just the region, but has been, plagued everyone sort of globally. And also a comparative study on pragmatics in Egyptian and Chinese journalistic discourse on COVID-19. And we also had an article on Yemeni online journalism. So I think that, there was a really, we very fortunately have received very valuable contributions from researchers from across the region and internationally, which has facilitated us in publishing a variety of content. I'm just going to share my screen for one moment to give you a sense of where you can go. All of our research is, I'm not able to share screen, I can just tell you verbally. All of our research is, we are an open access journal. Thank you, I think I was just given, thank you, that's great. We're an open access journal. And so all of our, this is our issue on media and health, you'll see, with a list of the published articles. We also have a great article on the media and digital transformation issue, which looks at online teaching and is a comparative study as well between Arab and South Asian experiences. Sorry, just a moment. Oh, so we're an open access journal. You can go to our website, arabmediasociety.com, and you'll have access to all of our research that we've published since the inception of the journal. We also have recently published our publisher's report. This is our first iteration of the report. However, this is something that we're going to be doing regularly. And this will give you a complete outline of all of our articles published, our acceptance rate, our reviewers, and our ranking. Any information that's relevant to our work, and that is also available on our website. So here you can see we have our media and science issue, our media and public affairs. These are all the issues that we have published since the beginning of the pandemic. Digital transformation, this is the media and health, which of course has the most reporting on the COVID-19 pandemic, and Media and Peace, which we just published, which also has an article on tracing cultural relations through the COVID-19 crisis. So I think I'll leave it there, and I'll hand the floor back over to Dr. Remy.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for this wonderful presentation. I really admire the spirit of a person who is very sick and ill, and yet, is not willing to waste an opportunity and insist of doing the presentation as scheduled on Arab Media and Society. So this is the spirit, Sarah, and I'm really proud that you are a colleague of mine. Now we have a different presentation from Ms. Salma Al-Ghitani. What I want to add to her, two lines bio is Ms. Al-Ghitani was honored by His Excellency Dr. Tariq Shawi, Minister of Education, as an external reviewer on her master thesis. And he took this thesis in his office and working on developing some of the concepts and ideas that related to media literacy. Al-Ghitani has also delivered multiple lectures on critical media literacy skills to different organizations, including the Ministry of Information, Ministry of Education, and of course, different schools, including the AUC. She is a professional certified trainer now and working on her PhD. Which is something that I am very proud to say to you and share it with you as well. She is a scholar of high caliber and also a hard worker. So I will invite her to start doing her presentation and share it with us. Salma, would you please? No? Yes, I will. I have to.
Audio. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm very glad to be part of this panel with respectable colleagues of mine, and of course, Dr. Hussein Amin, our leader and mentor. I'm going to talk very briefly because I know there are other presentations that we all look forward to hearing as well. I'm going to talk about two of the very important projects that the Adham Center has undergone during the peak of COVID in 2020 and 2021. The first one was a collaboration with UNESCO, the World Health Organization, and the United Nations Information Center in Cairo, UNIC. This was a 3-month project that we had worked on since the spring of the same year, and all during summer, to hold a series of webinars, 8 webinars, and in particular, that addressed media and journalism challenges of misinformation and disinformation and fake news. That, of course, was very widespread during the early days of COVID, and of course, up until now. The webinars were sort of inspired by or based on the UNESCO handbook, Journalism, Fake News, and Misinformation, that is found on the UNESCO website in multiple languages. We conducted these webinars via a Zoom webinar in 3 languages, Arabic, English, and French. We allowed for Q&A with the audience. Of course, in the post-test, people reported that they would have preferred to have more time for discussions since we had a big number of experts in every webinar. And that is something that we will take note of in coming events. The webinars were conducted every other Wednesday starting fall 2020, with a total attendance of more than 1,000 participants. Our opening session had the likes of President Francis Richard Looney, the then president of AUC, Dr. Guy Ferris, the then also Director General of the UNESCO Regional Bureau in Egypt and Sudan, Dr. Ahmed Mandari, the Regional Director of WHO in the Eastern Mediterranean region, and Mr. Richard Dictus, the UN President Coordinator in Egypt. These were the 8 topics that were tackled in every webinar, spanning from truth, trust, disinformation, disorder, industry transformation like digital technology and social media, new media, combating misinformation through the use of media literacy, fact-checking, verification tools, ensuring safety of journalists who were at the forefront of the pandemic, risking their lives to report on the situation in the hospitals and all that, and a final discussion that aimed at having a sort of unified policy or unified action to address COVID-19 in the media. Out of the 1,000 plus attendees, of course, the majority turned out to be from Egypt, which was expected. We had marketed on social media using Facebook algorithms to try and reach people elsewhere using our vast network in the Arab region, as well as the UN agencies networks in the Arab region. We also had people from different parts in Europe, from the US, from different African nations. So we had a good representation from different parts of the world, which was good. The affiliation of our attendees included students, media academics, chairs of departments in different schools in Egypt and abroad. We also had professional journalists from different media organizations, and we had a big representation from UN institutions and NGOs as well. So this is just a sample of the sort of flyers that we had. We had English, Arabic flyers for every webinar. We had a representative from UN or WHO in every of our 8 webinars to talk about the medical sort of scientific aspect of COVID-19 in the media. So we had sort of a balance between media and scientific reporting representation in every webinar. The final discussion also included high-profile speakers, including Ambassador Dr. Kais El Azawi, who unfortunately passed away a few months ago. We had Dr. Megan Osman, we have Dr. Arash Rashidian, Director of Science Information Dissemination in the World Health Organization, and we had Mr. Meher Nasser, Director of the Department of Global Communication Outreach in the United Nations. And of course, this session was moderated by Dr. Amin. Following this last session and all of the other 7, the collaboration with UNESCO culminated in a bilingual publication, an e-publication that summarized the key findings and deliverables of every webinar and examined COVID-19 and the issue of disinformation presented in the different webinars. And the different case studies that were presented by our experts, and it concluded with policy recommendations. This report is soon to be out on the UNESCO website in English and Arabic. The project as a whole received ample media coverage. These are some of the clippings from the media about this important topic. We've had also positive feedback from our participants who reported that the webinar really added, the different webinars added value to them and they've learned something. So we had a good post-webinar feedback. This is the first project that the center was part of. This is a project that we're very proud of because we organized it, we implemented it, and we reported on it all while being on lockdown during the early days of COVID in 2020. So it was very challenging to get to hold of experts, to get hold of journalists who were also all over the place trying to understand what's going on, trying to work remotely, sometimes not having the necessary resources to do so. So it was a challenging project, but we are very proud of it. As we were concluding the UNESCO project, we were in the early negotiations with the Facebook journalism project, now Meta, to conduct another mega one-year threefold project in collaboration with them. And the project just concluded in Jan 2022, just 2 months ago. This project aimed at offering a comprehensive sort of threefold solution platform to support Egyptian media organizations. So this project was focused on Egyptian media professionals and not regional like the UNESCO. It didn't have a regional aspect like the UNESCO grant. It focused on capacity building and training, and this is a part that my colleague Ms. Dina Saad is going to talk to us in more detail about. Focus on mentorship and consultation and empowering journalists by giving them technical resources that they need to work remotely. This is some of the sort of the visuals we had developed for each of the 3 tracks of the project. So we divided the project into 3 main tracks: the mini diplomas that Ms. Dina Saad is going to talk about, the connectivity track, empowering journalists by giving them technical connectivity, and the digital transformation mentorship track. The Facebook, of course, having Facebook as our partner helped us a lot in having a rigorous promotion campaign for all 3 tracks of the project on Facebook and other social media platforms to recruit these cadres and calibers from the media industry in all 3 tracks. We also worked with a digital solutions agency that we subcontracted, DGSA, to help us with promotion and sort of the technical back end of the project. And we relied on the center's vast network of professional experts in all 3 tracks of the project. This is the first track that I'm going to talk to you about, the Journalist Empowerment and Connectivity Program that ran from February 2021 and ended in January 2022. It had the aim of delivering 350 MiFi devices with a 1-year data package from we, the Telecom Egypt company, to qualify journalists after having a rigorous screening process, an online application process, and then having a committee select the qualified and eligible journalists to receive these tools that sort of help them with reporting from their homes, not going to the office every day, being asked to be on the street all the time, to collect information, to report, to do live reporting and all that. So they needed this technical resource. However, we suspect that due to some, I think, difficulties in the application process, because we had 3 tracks, so that created sort of some back-end confusion. We had some lower than expected application rates for this particular track. So instead of having 1 cycle to receive, to give out 350 MiFis, we had 4 cycles. We had a total of 830 applicants, and we selected the most eligible in each cycle to receive the MiFi router. The second track was the Egyptian Digital Transformation Mentorship Program. We had the digital media expert and trainer and journalist, Mr. Khalid Baramawi, as the coordinator for this program. This program ran from March through July 2021. It aimed at providing technical and editorial skills and tools for publishers. So this wasn't an individual track, not targeted at individual professionals, but at sort of entities, local entities. We try to focus on entities that are specialized in certain areas or that are that run from different governorates outside of Cairo, and that lacked the necessary skills and know-how to have a good digital presence in the age of new media. So some of them had newspapers, had magazines, or had other forms of traditional media, and their transition to digital media faced a lot of difficulties, and we helped them through that process. Out of around 50 applicants, we had 9. These are the 9 recipients of this track: شرقاوي نيوز, سوق الدواء, ولاد البلد, إعلام.com, Cairo 360, and others. This track focused on 5 main pillars and provided intensive sort of consultation to each of the 9 entities on these pillars about content, how to produce appealing content, digital audience, how to acquire audience, how to retain their audience, monetization. This was one of the key requested tools, is how to make money, how to have a good working business model for their digital platforms, content management, and technical challenges that they faced, especially given the COVID pandemic. The program team prepared pre and post questionnaires before and after the implementation of the program as an assessment tool to measure where they started off and then where they ended off after receiving the intensive mentorship and consultation. We worked closely. We had group meetings, and we also had one-on-one meetings and sessions with each of the 9 entities to identify their key problems, their key challenges, and introduce possible solutions. We tracked with them the rise in their content, the rise in their followers, the rise in their monetization. So we sort of were able to track their success stories as we went along. Thank you. I'll stop here and then thank you.
Okay, Salma, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. Actually, your presentation is an example of what is documentary research is all about. Detailed and bringing all kinds of evidence of how really this projects work. Of course, this is not the only 2 projects that the Adam Center that was during the pandemic. There are much more, and even in these 2 partnership with Facebook and the UNESCO, there are parts that I'm sure Ms. Dina Saad is going to talk about. In addition to the one line I introduced her at first, I would like to add that she's the one heading the division of the professional development program, and in her division she provides tailored courses, short small diplomas, symposiums, workshops based on the need of the different organization, because this field, the organization communication and corporate communication, with regard to training, is really in need of this kind of programs and short courses. I would like to add that Ms. Dina went to the Poynter Institute, one of the most important, or the most important institute in terms of training in the United States, and also got us a package of ideas that we implemented and we would like to implement also in the near future. Ms. Dina Saad, would you please proceed?
Thank you so much, Dr. Amin. Let me share my presentation. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your attendance. I would like to present today the program that we offered during the pandemic. Throughout 2019, we spent 1 year in collaboration with Facebook Journalism Project now Meta, in developing a program to offer for many professional diplomas in health, in medical and health journalism. The program was offered throughout 2021 in two consecutive cohorts, presenting 4 different tracks. The 4 main diplomas are mobile journalism, fact-checking, media ethics, and audience development, all related to health issues. The design of the program, as I've said, it took us 1 year to work on the content and the structure of the program. The program was offered through 6 main themes, and each mini diploma presented 6 sessions, 2 hours each for engagement of the participants. So we offered the part of Q&As. Each module had 2 panelists and moderator. The 4 diplomas were offered to 400 participants, Egyptian journalists, in 2 rounds over 1 year. Participants of each diploma track received a joint certificate from the Adham Center and the Facebook Journalism Project. The number of applicants that we received were around 500 applicants. The selection process, a committee composed from representatives from the center and Facebook, screening the applications based on the selection criteria. And the selection process focused on the diversity of gender, geographic, and demographic presentation to help journalists from all governorates to receive such training. We had a variety of applicants. So we had mainly between 25 years old to 40 were the main participants in the program. We're keen to have equal presentation from males and females. So we had 51 females and 49 males. And from governorates, we tried to select more from outside Cairo as much as we could. Number of instructors throughout this year, we had over than 100 professional trainers and moderators from different fields of new media. Eligibility of certificates. Upon completion, participants receive joint certificates from the Kemal Adham Center for Television and Digital Journalism and Facebook Journalism Project. The eligibility was based on the number of attendance, minimum 4 webinars out of the 6. In the first round, here are the numbers of the received certificates. In fact, checking 50, media ethics 28, audience development 26, and module, which is mobile journalism, 40. And here is the second round. 41, 39, 35, and 36. Indicator of success. This project was a great success. The main aim of the program was to enhance the skills of the journalists attended to deal with the COVID-19 situation and beyond it. Upon the completion of the project, the result of the survey questioning about whether the session added value or added knowledge to them, here are the results. In the module, we had the lowest in section 2, and that is presenting the 2 rounds, 88, and the highest was 100% acceptance. In the fact checking, the lowest was 93%, and the highest was 98%. In media ethics, the lowest was 92%, and the highest 100%. And finally, audience development, the lowest was 98% and the highest 100%. I would like to thank all the team who made this project a great success, and a special thanks to the PI, Dr. Hussein Amin, and the co-PI, Dr. Rasha Allah. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Dina, for a wonderful presentation. Of course, your division is working on so many things, but we don't have the time to tell about this. But for this conference, you already focused on the points that we would like to share with the community with regard to the performance of the professional development program during the pandemic. It is important for us to have an external reviewer who is with us today, coming from Alexandria, where he lives. And every time, of course, I go to Alexandria, he insists to invite me for the dinner or lunch, but usually the visit is short and the business trip, so one day we can make it. But let me introduce Mr. Ahmed Asmat. Mr. Ahmed Asmat is a wonderful young expert. As I said before, that he is well known to all academics in Egypt and the region. But I would like to add that he got his MA from the UK and becoming an expert in artificial intelligence and digital transformation. So he, besides being, of course, one of the experts in informatics, he is a very close friend to the Adam Center. But he is, his opinions, critical opinions with regard to certain things that is happening inside the center. I always welcome comments and opinions. And therefore, when we had this session, and I told him it's about documentary research, and we are documenting the performance of the center during the pandemic, and invite him to come and share his experience with the Atom Center. He welcomed the invitation, and I thank him for that. With all respect, I would like to ask Mr. Ahmed Asmat, as an external reviewer, to share his views with us and with, of course, the audience. Please, Mr. Ahmed Asmat.
Thank you, Dr. Hussein, for inviting me today and for the introduction. Actually, I'm going to build on what my dear colleague and friend Salma and what my friend also Dina Saad said from an external point of view. Not a really external one, I'm internally now, but yeah. Let me share my presentation. I was lucky enough to be part of the two projects, the UNESCO and the WHO one and the Facebook Now Meta project. And actually, I'm going to give my insights about both. But before starting talking about any of the projects, I just want to highlight something important. It is a process. From the very first beginning, when you enter Kamal Adham Center to start working with them, whether to be invited as a guest, as a speaker, keynote speaker, or even to give a comment or something, you need to follow a certain process and a certain procedure. At the beginning, and I'm talking about myself here, I thought it was tough. You receive a lot of emails, a lot of calls, a lot of preparations. People are keen to follow every single word you are going to say, not to say, to tell you what to say and not or what not to say, but to make sure that everything is working and functioning within the same framework. And at the end, this is for the benefit of the audience and the participants. Uh, 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 um, the process itself, for me now, is known. I know how things are going on, but for externals, they might think it is a tough one. But the results are always speaks on behalf of the process, and the results shows how the process is functioning properly and delivering a real input for those who are attending a talk or a speech or even a conference or a training. Um, During the UNESCO WHO Kamal Adham Center project, actually it started amid of the during the very first beginning of the COVID-19 situation. Participated in the third webinar under the theme of news industry transformation, the spread of disinformation and disinformation, alongside with a lot of the experts like Dr. Ahmed Koudi and others, Ahmed Gudai and others. I was speaker. I provided certain insights regarding the mis and disinformation, which is now called information disorder. This specific webinar was launched after the director of the UNESCO used the terminology information infodemic, sorry, the infodemic, and it was the very first time to listen to that terminology, and we started working and analyzing it academically. Actually, now we are having the information disorder and the infodemics, and we are moving towards. I thought that when the COVID-19 situation is going to situation will be solved or the number are decreasing, but I think now we are having other crises like the war that's going on, what is going on now with the financial markets, and I think it's now and it's now another time for the infodemics and the information disorder. Focusing on that webinar, the UNESCO asked or the organizers asked for the certain quote, and that was my quote. Basically, I was talking about the producer, which are the producers and the users at the same time. We give examples about how worldwide media was dealing with the COVID-19. I hope that the book will be published, or the book will be published soon, and we can see all the quotes in it. The other project was the Facebook Now Meta project. It was supporting media organizations during the COVID-19. I was lucky enough now to move from being a speaker to being a speaker and managing a track. It was the information disorder track, and that's why I started talking about the process at the beginning. As my friends previously mentioned, this project was divided into 3 parts, and it was repeated twice. So we were able to build on our experience and provide unique content for our participants and audience. Just some of the takeaways from both projects, and as a comment on the process as I started talking about, the idea of moving from a speaker to track manager and to manage a track, it was not an easy thing, because we were dealing with a lot of speakers, a lot of commentators. We need to follow up with what they were doing. We were having our TAs helping in a lot of things. I can say that during the second project, the Meta project, we were able to develop more ideas, and the methodologies were like well cooked, if you allow me to say. Also, we were able to move from just giving quick tips on what to do and what not to do to have concrete hands-on. What should we do and how can we do it during the pandemic, from covering the news, how not to fall in the problems of the information disorder. I think also that we were able to develop more concrete KPIs, key performance indicators during a post-project that helped us a lot while we were curating the program and the content itself. The last thing, last but not least, the content development. We were able to provide extensive content. I hope that we were at some time we can publish a book with the content, because actually every single speaker and commentator during the Meta program and the UNESCO WHO program were providing a concrete insight about that, about their own point of view regarding the COVID-19 situation. And I think that should be documented and should be published even for the academics to be used. That's all. Thank you very much again.
Okay. Thank you, Ahmed, for this wonderful presentation. Of course, we looking forward to have the book, and this is actually something that we, you and I, and of course Ms. Sarah Shara, we can work together and see how we can do and how we can publish it. Of course, but we've been in the public. I mean, the publishing. Adam Center is a publisher, and we are in the publishing service for all kinds of materials that we can put together and produce to the public and be benefit to the public. I think and I can't see any questions. If there is any questions being received anywhere. Or somebody from the panelists will have a question for me. Otherwise, we need to end this session. So I don't see any questions. Anyway, I would like to thank all the panelists, Ms. Sarah Sha'rawi, Ms. Salma Al-Ghutani, and Ms. Dina Saad, and of course, Mr. Ahmed Asmat for their contribution, opinions, and reflections and presentations. I thank them for documenting this important period of time that most of the people who are we consider the biggest family of the American University in Cairo in need of information. They were provided information to them, whether in print, in journals, or in broadcast, in AUCTV, or during the different kinds of partnership programs with the UNESCO and with Facebook in the last 2 years. And I think the media in general and the journalists in particular, they benefit tremendously from this partnership with the UNESCO and Facebook projects. That was actually a contribution from all members of the Adham Center altogether. Before I end, I would like very much to thank Ms. Engineer Rania Abul Wafa and Engineer Mohammed Kamal and Ms. Hadar Atz and Mr. Hussein Mu'taz for putting all the audiovisual materials together and presented to me in no time. I thank them for their efforts. They are also colleagues of mine in the center, and they are working hard to to present the center at this particular time, where everybody was very scared to come to the university. They've been here working and producing materials and put it on AUCTV to be available to all audience, students, families of the students, staff, and faculty. And so before I end, I would like also to thank Engineer Abdul Menem, who is the IT expert for managing this session from the technical point of view. I thank you, and I hope to see you soon in a different session, in a conference that deals with issues other than the pandemic. Thank you very much, and goodbye.